as oh,
Sorry,
no problem. I was going to remind you to record it and I forgot myself.
no problem.
So as we're going along today, I would hope that you would stop me and ask questions. I don't know even how many people are in the classroom, Dr. Casper?
There's 35.
Okay, because I only see the tops of the 4 people in the front, their heads. So
I wish I could turn it back.
I don't necessarily want to pick on the same people all the time because I am noted to, I'm famous for picking on people. So today what we'd like to do is as Dr. Casper has asked us, talk a little bit about research. We're going to look at the SBRnet site shortly. And we're going to try to put some things in context because, really research and data, it's hard to really do anything anymore, to go anywhere or to have any sort of conversation without there being some sort of a data research or information component. As John says, I've been doing this for 26 years. I have had the pleasure of working with many of the most popular, in some cases, ubiquitous brands. I've worked with Under Armour, Nike, although Nike and I don't have a great relationship, Adidas, Asics, Skechers, you name it. Either it's on the equipment side, the apparel side, the brand side, the national governing body side, sports commissions, you name it. I have been involved in various projects in helping them utilize research and data and information. But the most important thing that I was able to bring is I have the ability, and one of the things I'm hoping that you'll have the ability to after, we're not just done here today, but after also you're done with your 3 projects, is to understand how to tell a story with data. Because to me, as someone that's been sitting across from a CEO, sitting across from a sales manager, sitting across from really anyone that I've worked with, people love data and they love to hear about it, but nobody wants to hear all the nitty-gritty details. Don't tell me how you made the sausage. Just tell me, what do I need to do in order so that I can sell more? People don't want to know the specifics. They just want to know that you know what you're doing, and then being able to have the ability to tell a story using data. If I could impart any single thing on for this today, is that learn how to use data, information, research to tell a story, because that's really, again, your most effective tool. And in fact, that's going to be one of your most effective tools when you're probably doing a single most important thing that you're going to try to do over the next year or 2. And you know what that is? Find a job. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today too, how telling a story is going to be really helpful in helping you find a job, because that's one of the things that SBRnet is also actively engaged in. We're not an employment agency, but we have incorporated some very specific content, especially a show called My First Job in Sports, which I will show you here today as we're talking about what SBRnet can do in terms of research. Dr. Casper, what are some of the products and or services or the tasks that people are going to be working with during your term?
Okay, yeah. So the first project that they're going to be working on is a consumer behavior research assignment, where ultimately they're going to use research to identify 3 target markets. So
okay.
that's going to be the first one. The second one is where they're going to use research to create creative marketing tactics. So the justification for tactics that they come up with. And then the final one is their final project, which is a marketing plan, where research is pretty much incorporated throughout.
I'm hoping that Dr. Casper invites me back, because that's a process that he just laid out that I love to be a part of. I love it when you can take, the data, you can take what I've learned and take what I understand and being able to put it into practical applications to do what, everybody? Tell a story. And that's one of the things, because one of the things that data, research, information can do is that, number one, it can confirm in some cases what you already know. You don't need to do research in order to look out the window to see what the weather is like. You can just look out the window. But in other cases, if you are in a room with no windows, then you need some method that helps you confirm what you think you already know. Confirmation is very important. And companies that don't use data and research for confirmation in many cases, they'll believe, whatever anybody tells them. And I have some very specific stories of, a CEO from a major sporting goods company who sat across the table from me and thought he knew what the top selling product was in his primary category. He thought he could look right out the window and see. And guess what? He was wrong. And he was wrong, when I asked him to give me the top 5, he couldn't get that either. So the point is, data can be really important to help you confirm. But what it can also do is uncover. And that's really where things get very interesting. Because uncovering, things like Dr. Casper just talked about, consumer behavior, being able to answer who, what, when, where, why, and how. That is, they are the most fundamental of questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. If you are doing some consumer-based research and you do not get the answers to those questions, then you're not asking the right questions. So at the end of the day in consumer research, we always want to be able to answer again, who, what, when, where, why, and how. And in today's business world, those questions and those answers are so much more complicated than they used to be. More products on the market, more media choices for consumers to utilize, more ways that consumers can interact with various products. I mean, look, as Dr. Casper said, I've been around for a while, and 26 years ago, there was no e-commerce. There was no Amazon. All they had were brick and mortar. So it made your lives and my job a lot easier if I was doing some specific research to build a plan. But at the foundation also of this uncovering aspect is one of, in my opinion, Dr. Casper and everyone, the oldest and maybe one of the first things I ever learned when I got out of college, because they didn't teach it to me. I went to Syracuse University and I majored in both advertising and marketing. But the one thing they never taught me is the one thing that I learned later on is that there is this thing called a SWOT analysis. And I don't know if Dr. Casper, have you discussed it in class yet?
Yeah, we just covered it in last week, as a matter of fact.
Well, so timing is good. So a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And again, data, research, information, whether it be quantitative or qualitative, is designed to help you answer those questions. And when you get ready to do your business plan, I hope Dr. Casper brings me back, because I'll be honest, if I'm asked to review them and I don't see that you did a SWOT analysis, you're going to the bottom of the pile. I can tell you that right now. Because to me, I always want to know my strengths. What do I have going for me? Why would people buy my product, choose my service, utilize me? Whatever it might be, what are my strengths? But also, where am I weak? Where am I vulnerable? Where could my competition exploit me? And then, of course, the opportunities. Now, this is where data comes in so unbelievably important. What categories are growing? And then how do I find out those categories are growing? Data can be so important. One of the pieces of data we have on SBRnet, and we're going to talk about it, is participation data. So when you're looking to, whether it's create a new product, you're looking to extend an existing product line. Let's say you're a company that builds, I don't know, inexpensive bikes to compete against Peloton, talking about Echelon. So again, but before you go ahead and expand into that next category, or what they call a line extension, let me find out if that category that I want to do my line extension in is growing, or is it declining? Is there market share available? I like to use the word white space, by the way, when I talk about available market share. Is there white space? So again, I love to start with participation data. And the other reason why I start there is because if people don't play, they don't need to buy. And that to me is a fundamental experience, or a fundamental piece. As Mark can tell you, Mark has probably sat and heard me do presentations, not just since we bought SBRnet, but Mark used to run a very large trade show, and luckily he used to ask me to come in and talk to both the retailers and manufacturers. And I always used to start off with participation data. Why? Because if people don't play, they don't participate, they don't need to buy. I'm hoping that as you're developing your marketing plans, as you're creating your marketing strategy, as you're developing your product service, that you will understand first and foremost that if people don't participate, they don't need what you're selling or buying. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But Dr. Casper, can I stop and ask if there's any questions so far?
Sure. Any questions so far? None so far.
Hey, does anybody know what kind of products or services they're thinking about using as part of their projects, or has that not been decided yet?
Actually, they turned in their ideas today. So most are working in the service, are thinking about doing their projects in the service industry. So we have a lot of people doing minor league baseball teams, for example, college sport teams, for example, local professional teams. I try and have them focus on something smaller rather than bigger, just because we're doing it's a 15-week class.
Got it.
So yeah, so most of those are the ways. We've had some other interesting ones working on some new developing type of sports where for sure participation data can go through, but I haven't gone through everybody's ideas yet, so I don't know everything quite yet.
But these are all great ideas, and in fact, SBRnet can play a very valuable role as you're doing these projects, Dr. Casper. Dr. Casper, can you please give me the sharing ability?
Yeah. All right.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. And just let me know when everybody is able to see it.
We can see it.
Okay, great. So I'm going to brag a little bit on my own service, because Mark and I are so proud of what we've created and what we're building at SBRnet and Sports Market Analytics. Mark and I, about 2 years ago almost, the business was brought to our attention, but we knew it needed a lot of work. It needed a big upgrade. It needed a fresh face. It needed a new coat of paint. And we've done that and so much more. But I can tell you that as you're going through your projects, that we'll be able to help you and guide you through an awful lot of what needs to get done. So this is SBRnet, the new homepage. Where I'm going to go first, though, is a new area on our site. And I hope you can see it, but it's called the Sports Business Resource Center. And why I'm taking you here first are two reasons. Number one is that I have a saying that at SBRnet, everything we do starts with search. Because why search? Well, before I can start to look at data, before I can start to check relevant articles, before I can see, what's going on out there, I want to know what's there. It makes, it's the simplest thing. I need a roadmap. So for instance, if you're doing something in baseball and you want to see what SBRnet has on baseball, everything starts with search. And why? When I'm going through the problem-solving process, matrix, recipe, formula, there's a lot of different names for this, as you can tell. I always want to start as wide as possible. I don't want to narrow things down. Oh, if I'm going to be putting together a marketing plan for a minor league baseball team to help them sell more tickets, you know what? I might not want to start off, looking at that particular team or looking at demographics in that particular city. What I might want to do is to go to our fan studies area, which you'll find in there, and you would find out that we have data on minor league baseball. So start as wide as you possibly can in our search area. In this case, I'm going to add in minor league baseball. Just hope it works. We just fixed our indexing. And I'm doing this live. There's always a danger in that. So we just typed in minor league baseball. On the left-hand side, up comes a number of relevant and timely articles. Because why? I want you to start as wide as possible in your search or in your process. But then it comes into relevant research. What research does SBRnet have where I can go and understand a number of the different areas? In this case, it pulled up, people gambling on minor league baseball. Now, again, you want to be able to start as wide as possible. How can I understand as much as I can? You've got to keep an open mind. And I like to call it, by the way, an open funnel also. Don't be afraid to throw a lot of data in there. Show that you've done your homework. Show that you've looked at all of the articles that are currently out there, all of the research that SBRnet has out there. Because again, what it will do is it allow you to get that funnel as much data in there as possible. Earlier, I talked about participation data. Again, right here on the SBRnet site. So you might want to take a look at it if you're researching, again, minor league baseball. Maybe kids who play baseball might at some point want to be a good potential target for trying to draw in new fans to minor league baseball. Let's face it, it's become very expensive to take a family of 4 to a major league baseball game. So again, if you're going to be doing baseball, and why don't I see it? Because it is, oh, here we go. But you might want to start off by looking at participation. Who are people playing baseball? Are they young? Are they old? Where do they fit in terms of their region of the country? What's their education level, age level? So again, you can look at baseball players and understand a little bit about who are these people, because remember, there's a process. The process will be in that strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Well, do I have an opportunity to create a market among baseball teams, little league teams, kids playing elite teams, kids playing on school teams, kids playing in recreational leagues, you name it. So again, keep that funnel open as wide as you can. Dr. Casper, you look like you want to add something here.
I was just going to mention, we're actually going to be doing a worksheet on this Thursday that's going to have them do exactly what you're talking about. So they're going to be choosing a sport of their choice, whether it's minor league baseball. They have to choose either the participation aspects of it or the viewership aspects of it. So it could be watching minor league baseball, or it could be playing basketball or something like that. But they're going to choose that. Then they're going to use your database to look at not only the trends, but the gender differences, age differences, all those things. So what you're talking about is exactly what they'll be doing Thursday.
So Dr. Casper, what you'll be able to do is start off, let's say, by looking at participation, understanding those demographics that you just talked about. Who's playing, where they're playing, how old are they, gender splits, things like that. But then I suggest you take everyone into our premium area, which, by the way, as a subscriber, we have grandfathered you in, so you do have access. But you go here to our fan studies area and maybe download some of these files. However, they're also available up here in what we call our summary section. So in our summary section, we look at a number of different areas. We look at what we call sports gambling. We gave that a separate area. We look at our fan markets. So again, what are the areas if we look at demographics? So we can look at, again, all of the fans by by the various sports and activities. And there's minor league baseball right there. So the summary area is a great place to go second. Start off at participation. See what you can build from there. Go into the summary area and go into fan market. Because in fan market, look all the things that you can deal with. You can look at attendance demographics, viewership information, online viewing trends. Let's face it, younger consumers are abandoning traditional sports viewing outlets in a completely different way. I can't see your class, Dr. Casper, but I'm curious, how many of you have watched let's say, a major league sporting event on television recently? Regular TV.
Raise your hand if you watch. Almost everybody.
How many of them have also watched a major sporting event via streaming, via one of their devices?
Everybody.
Well,
actually, everybody.
And there you have it. 5 years ago, if I would have asked those same questions, you know what? Even 3 years ago.
I need to get a new phone.
Maybe.
It's too small.
But maybe even 2 years ago, when we asked that question, because one of the biggest areas we're seeing right now is that viewer trends and viewing trends have changed dramatically. People are going more to online streaming services. Really looking at other ways to be able to, get the information they need. Again, streaming. We did an entire area on our sports fan study. We interviewed in late 2020 about 3,700 sports fans. And we do the study every year. It's a quantitative study, balanced to the population for the United States for persons 13 years and older. And we ask them just a number of key questions about their streaming habits and, whether or not now minor league, streaming, okay, may not be the strength, may not be where the action is when it comes to streaming activity for minor league baseball. But again, you have the ability to be able to access all of that data in our summary report section. Dr. Casper, what's the time? What's my time crunch here?
You're fine right now. We got, yeah, probably another 30 minutes max.
Okay, good, good. So there are a number of areas that you can go to, participation first, summary area, fan market second, maybe streaming media third. And then if you even want to get in and look at some of the other other participation data that we've created, some custom reports. So let's say you want to look at men versus women, and you want to look at them separately. Well, we've also broken that data out. So remember, use your funnel ideas. Keep it as wide as possible in the beginning, but start to narrow down. I mean, you know what a funnel looks like.
Another thing, Neil, is if they choose a participation sport, I have them also look at the sporting good industry associated with that. So kind of getting into what you were talking about, where if the participation's decreasing, that's a worry for the sporting good industry. What I also have them look at is trends within the goods specific to their sport. So if they chose tennis, for example, how many tennis rackets are being sold? How many tennis balls are being sold? Things like that, to give a better indication of the health of the sport.
Dr. Casper, that's one of the areas of the service that we're in the process of updating. Our sales data stops at 2018. We will be dumping in the bulk of our sales data probably in the next couple of weeks. As the class is going through the process, I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't do, but I'm going to give out my email address. So at the end, if somebody says, look, you know what, Neil, I need, sales information on, football equipment or baseball equipment or tennis rackets or tennis balls, I'll be able to provide that information if it's not up on the site, but I suspect it will be. But again, I will give out my email address at the end. I do promise. So again, understanding the process. But as you're understanding the process, there's also something else that's very important and that I advise. Try not to push the data around. Let the data fall where it may. So what does that mean? And I tell that to people all the time when I go into a meeting, and they wonder, why is it that Neil's looking at all of this? I know what my customer is. I know the demographics. I know what regions sell better than the other. But you know what? I always tell people, let's let the data guide us, and we should not guide the data. So again, when you're working, through, your different sport, your different challenge, your different product, your different service, allow the data to fall into the answers. So asking the questions, what are the demographics? Oh, well, if it's baseball and I want little leaguers, they're, ages 8 to 13. Don't do that. Let the data tell you where to go, because you will always be better off when you allow the data to fall down through that funnel. It's gravity, guys. It's all about gravity. You put a lot of data up at the top, and then what you want it to do is gravity will push the data down through the funnel, and hopefully it's going to be the data that you need. Good data, bad data, you need to really make sure that it is, it is getting you to the right story. As an example, if you're interested in Little League, let's say you're going to try to do something with a minor league baseball team, which, by the way, is probably a fun topic or a fun category to work with, because I think there's so many different things you could do. But again, if you went in and looked at participation data, one of the things it might tell you is this. I hope I get this one right. Again, working without a net, Dr. Casper, can be.
You're good. You're good.
So what I'm looking at here is I am looking at minor league data. This data comes from our fan study. And what we've done here is, again, we've pulled out a number of key demographics, for this particular sport. So again, it gives you the opportunity to be able to understand, what's going to travel down the funnel. Who is going, for minor league baseball. Now, we might lead you back here to participation data. And it might say this, we're seeing a drop in baseball participation. Less kids are playing baseball. Why? Could be a variety of different reasons. Could be a social distancing, although baseball is fairly social distance. I mean, if you're out there in the middle of center field, there's pretty much nobody around you. But what that might also say is, well, let me look at, back up here, let me go back to participation data, and maybe go to softball, which is down here somewhere. There we go. So go to fast pitch softball. Because while softball is different in terms of the sport, there may be some things in common. Boys who play Little League might have sisters that are playing softball. So again, it opens up opportunities. But again, if you push the data down through the funnel versus letting it just kind of go there all by itself, you're not going to find these things out. It's just not going to happen. So again, you want to be able to work the process. Work the process. Start with participation. Go to fan market. Then move to single sports summaries, because in there will be all of the information you need to be able to answer what I started out with. Who, what, when, where, why, and then how. By the way, why can sometimes be a little bit more complicated. Just because why typically is, we get into more of motivation, and we get into some of that squishy or more qualitative aspects of why consumers do what they do, why they buy a particular brand. But again, you have the ability to be able to answer many of the key questions. I see Dr. Casper standing.
Oh, keep on going. I was agreeing with you there for sure. We actually we'll cover the kind of the why when we do a means and change analysis. So they'll basically ask why a few times to kind of drive down to the base reasons for people watching or playing.
I will tell you one place that can be incredibly helpful, as I said, is our search area for why, and looking at articles that have been written and are in the media. And I didn't hit.
Yeah, and that's actually a nice part that I see that's new on your site, is that the ability to look at relevant articles. That's something that you didn't have before, or if you did, I never saw
it. Well, we had it, but let's just say Mark and I have upgraded it, because the sports business media has grown substantially. In fact, I would say exponentially. So we are now adding a number of new providers, whether it's Axios Sports, whether it's Morning Consult Sports. In fact, that brings up another valuable point. What are you folks reading every day in order to learn more about sports? Because here at SBRnet, in our new resource center, we have got an awful lot of things that can really help you better understand, what it is you need to be able to do. I'm going to show you a couple of examples. Number one, we now have a list of all of the important podcasts that are available across the spectrum in sports business. I cannot see the hands. How many of you listen to any of the podcasts that are related to the business of sports?
Anybody listen to a few? Maybe 10 people out of 35.
Okay, next time I come back, I want to at least 25 of 35, if not everyone.
I recommend a few on my website, FYI. You hopefully have seen that.
Well, maybe I'll help you out with that. Also, who are you following on social media? Are you following the right people? For instance, are you following Alex Silverman from Morning Consult Sports? Alex is a great source of information. Are you following, let me go down to somebody good. Should go to my, no. Are you following Eben Novy-Williams? He's from Sportico. And he could be an incredible source of great information. So it's very important to understand, where can I get?
Great, actually.
What's that?
That's great. This page here.
So again, this is something that you have access to. One of the areas also, look, you probably have enough to read. You don't need more books to read. I get it. But, maybe in your spare time, we have our recommended reading for all sports business, sports management, sports marketing, all folks are, check out at some point. Maybe there is some good information that you can use within this, within that, some of the things you want to be able to look up. But the last thing I want to do, and I mentioned this a few minutes ago, is we now are producing our own content. And let me tell you something, every one of your parents, and I do mean every one of your parents, are praying to whatever they believe in that you get a job when you get out of school. And we want to help. What's that?
And their professors.
Yes.
There you go.
We want to help. We have created a wonderful show that I am hoping all of you will watch in video form, as well as subscribe to the podcast. It's called My First Job in Sports. And what have we done? We are speaking to folks just like yourself that only got out of school a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. They're on their first job, their second job, their third job. So here's an interesting point. A lot of you would sound like you're going to be working on the minor league baseball part of things. Well, we interviewed Noah Rubin in our third show. Noah is in charge of customer service for the inside sales group with the Washington Nationals. Wouldn't that be a job a lot of you would like to have in 3 years? But Noah talks about his journey, about what he did when he got out of school in order to gain a valuable foothold. He talked about, working for a minor league team. He went to Barcelona and worked as an intern at FC Barcelona. Now, I'm not saying you need to go to Barcelona, but Noah worked his way up. And it's very important. And by the way, Noah has some great stories and some great anecdotes in there that could be very valuable for you as you're doing your research. So I cannot stress this enough, that I am hoping that you will all take some time. Look, and you know what? Do it at your leisure. Watch the show in video on YouTube. Listen to the podcast. There's going to be, we're putting up 4 more episodes. I think we've got 6 up now. There's going to be 4 more. Our last interview was Scott Kaufman-Ross. Scott is vice president and head of gaming and new ventures for the NBA. How many of you would love to have that gig in a few years? I'm going to put my hand up. But Scott is possibly on the short list to be the next commissioner of the National Basketball Association. Maybe you might want to listen to what Scott has to say about how he worked his way through the system and what he learned. So I cannot stress enough of the things that are available here in the resource center. Another area is also, we've got, let me go back here. Whoops. Major sports executives. You know what? If you're planning to do something on minor league sports, it might not be a bad idea to see if you can reach out to maybe somebody. I think I got the wrong thing here, but that's okay. No, this is minor league baseball. Maybe you try to reach out to one of these folks that are in minor league baseball and see if you can ask them a few questions about, hey, how's your business? What are you doing to grow fan base? How are you working post-COVID? What are you doing in order to increase? I mean, you'd be surprised. You would be surprised at how many people are willing to talk to college students as they are learning, their craft or their job or their business. So again, our site offers a lot of different things that I think could be very valuable. One, as you're doing your projects, but two, as you're also learning and gaining an understanding of where do I want to go when I get out of school? Where am I going to get a job? Maybe how are the projects that I'm working on now in Dr. Casper's class going to help me down the line? Because again, that's what we all want. We all want a job. We all want to be able to, use, all of the different things that we have learned. So Dr. Casper, I don't know if there's anything else I can add to today.
Oh, thank you so much. Let's see if there's any questions. Anybody have any questions for Neil? I'd love to get a couple. Give him a few seconds to think.
Well, while they're thinking, as you're doing your projects and as you're doing, look, obviously Dr. Casper is a wonderful resource, but if you want to be able to send me an email and say, hey, Neil, what data do you think I should be looking at? Go ahead. It's Neil, my first name, Neil, at SBRnet.com. Do tell me where you're from, although if I see NC, I guess it's NCSU at .edu, I'll know where it's from. But, again, don't be afraid to, reach out. I do have a lot of experience with this, and I do, I am able to help you. Usually. I shouldn't say always, but usually. Another interesting place also, while you're maybe thinking of a question, is we now also have research papers here that other students have written. So, here, somebody, Joey Evaldi at Syracuse University, part of the Falk School, wrote a paper on minor league baseball attendance for the Eugene Emeralds in Eugene, Oregon. So, what did he do? What process did he go through? What are other things that he looked at, in order to be able to research minor league baseball attendance for the Eugene Emeralds, in Oregon. So again, the site is just a wealth of information. Dr. Casper, a lot of these things were not available previously.
Yeah, no, that resource center is great. I hadn't gotten a chance to see all that you have. So that's some excellent stuff. All right.
By the way, 2 years from now, I'm hoping that one of you I'm going to be interviewing on my first job in sports.
All right.
And I'm going to remember this day.
We actually are coming up with a couple people from our program for you to have for that. So
okay,
hopefully we'll get a state grad in there as well. Okay, anybody have any questions? I got one for you really quick. What in the 26 years you've been doing this, what's been your favorite project to work on? Or if you think back, what has been your most interesting project? Or how you've used research to help an organization? Well,
I think probably one of the projects I'm best known for, and also there's actually two. Number one is that when Under Armour went public back in, I think it was 2011. God, I can't remember. Mark, what year was it? Looks like he's not listening.
Yeah.
It's kind of bad if you can't get your own partner.
It was like 2010, 2011 maybe.
Oh, here he is. Mark, what
2011.
year?
2011 is correct.
Oh, yay. So in 2011, when the Under Armour IPO was announced, they came to me to help them with their S1 document, which means they were looking to me to be able to help them understand market sizing, the size of the prize. How big is the potential market that they're going after? Then, who has market share? Where were they going to get market share? Is it going to come from growing participation, making the pie bigger? Or are they going to have to steal from their competitors, i.e. Adidas, Nike, ASICS, New Balance, you name it. So where were they going to get market share from? And then what do the projections look like? What does it look like to get 1% market share, 5% market share, 10%? And then laid out a series of scenarios, both, best case and worst case. And I have to say, I was working with with Goldman Sachs as well as Wells Fargo. They were the main investment banks on the project. And, literally they were talking to me as they were going out with what they call the roadshow or the S1 document on a Monday. And they were literally talking to me Sunday night to change the numbers, add to the numbers, to, really, work the numbers. So I was very proud of the work I did. If you look up on, I forgot the name of the service, Edgar, you can find the Under Armour S1 document. But I will tell you the other piece of research I'm really proud of. And Dr. Casper, I think I might have talked to you about this one.
Was this with Dick's?
No, that was a good one too, actually. But that's actually a good one too. But a number of years ago, the folks at Majestic, who own the uniform license for Major League Baseball, they were part of VF Corp. They came to me and said, we are having a tough time selling baseball gear, especially to women. And what we would like to do is we'd like to better understand the market, because we're about to renegotiate our contract with Major League Baseball, and we want to show them that we know the market. So what did we do? We literally went to 8 Major League Baseball stadiums in the span of 2 weeks. And we interviewed baseball fans out in the concourses using what they call an intercept. I would literally see a woman standing there with 2 children, and I would walk over and try to get them. And we had a small incentive to get them. In some cases, it was, food at a concession stand or whatever it might be, to ask them a series of questions. In other cases, we interviewed people in a longer 5-minute, 10-minute format who were shopping at the team stores in the various stadiums. And you know what? We found out some incredible insights, because all you had to do was ask and then put it all together. And as an example, women were not buying licensed baseball jerseys for 3 reasons. Number one, they hated the fabric. It would itch, they would hate it. Number two, and this is something that they didn't even realize, that women's apparel buttons opposite of the way men's apparel, whereas ours buttons kind of right to left, women button left to right. And guess what? All of the jerseys were buttoning the wrong way. Number 3 is that the sizing. There is a funny expression in the apparel business called, in order to get something, that's out there for men, for women, they will do something called pink it and shrink it. Well, pink it and shrink it wasn't working in this case, because women have different body types than men. Just a little bit of insight here. And, and especially even women were different. Women amongst themselves had different body types. Women with larger bust size and smaller waist. And there's just a whole bunch of different things. And, women have different needs in terms of what they want to wear under their baseball jersey. So we made a series of 10 recommendations to VF. And in the very first year of their new contract with Major League Baseball, they implemented 4 of them. And they all got them all 4 of those things were a big part of the marketing plan. So I was very proud of that. And, Dr. Casper mentioned Dick's Sporting Goods. That was also pretty good now that I think about it.
All right.
Any questions?
Anything for Neil? Okay, hey, well, thank you so much for being a part of today's class. And we look forward to using the new and enhanced database. It's an important part of what we do. So we appreciate you keeping that up to date and making our projects a little bit more fun and interesting.
Don't be shy about reaching out. I gave you my email address for a reason. If I get 35 emails, I'll be happy. And if I get 0, I'll be sad. And by the way, if I get 0, I'll let Dr. Casper know.
I'll be sure to share your email with the class too. I'll post it on our course website.
Okay, and I'm also hoping you'll all start watching the My First Job in Sports video series. But also, if you're a podcast person, you like to listen to podcasts as you're going, to class in the morning or when you're out for a run or whatever it might be, please, it's available on all the major podcast platforms. Apple, sign up, give, if you like it, 5 stars never hurts. And, and I think that's the end of my commercial.
All right. Thank you so much, Neil.
Okay, everybody.
All right. Okay, let's give him
a great day.
At least he can hear you. There we go.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you.